So in our picture, what's the ratio for sine of angle x? So if here's our angle, we go opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. So our sine would be a over c. So we need to solve for x. Well, x isn't being multiplied to sine. It's something that's part of the function itself. So you know how multiplying and dividing cancel each other out? And you get 1? So like if you had 2 times 1/2, it's 1. Just like when you add 3 and negative 3, you get 0. Those are called inverses. They're inverse operations. So addition undoes subtraction and multiplication undoes division. Well, when it comes to trig, we have a whole new operation called an inverse operation, where in order to get x by itself, to move the sign to the other side, we use that sine -1 of a over c. So by when we move it to the other side, we have to do the sine -1, and that's where on your calculator, I think it was your class that asked what about the -1s.
Yeah, it was me.
Was that you? Well, now you get to know what they are. They help us find the angles, so they undo, or they're the inverse to a sine function. So if you locate it, all of your inverse buttons are right above your sine, cosine, and tangent. So if you're going to solve for an angle, those are what you're going to use. And we have them for all three. So if we were using cosine of x, which is b over c, then we could say x is equal to the inverse cosine of b over c. And then same thing for tangent. Tangent of x is a over b. So to solve for x, we do inverse tangent of a over b. So one of the things you want to make a note of, and this is what people commonly mistake, only use inverse when you don't know the angle. Okay, so you only do this when the angle is your variable. If you know your angle, you're just going to use regular sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, so we're going to go through 4 examples where we're going to solve for the angle. How we set them up is the same way we've been doing the ones over the past couple days. So if we look at number 1 here, just like before, we're going to start by circling our angle. This time it's a variable. And we're going to label opposite. Across from 90 is our hypotenuse. And the other sides are adjacent. Which trig function are we going to use here? Cosine, because we have something on the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So cosine of angle x will equal 18 divided by 23. To solve for x, to move the cosine to the other side, we make it inverse cosine of 18 over 23. And this here is what we will type in to our calculator. So how we set this up is the same way we did it before. The only thing that's different is our angle's the variable on these as opposed to a side. So in your calculator, you're going to do second and then hit cosine because we want inverse cosine. And then you're going to type in 18 over 23. If yours doesn't have the fraction, just do divide. and you get 38.4999541. We're going to round to the nearest tenth. We'll keep that pretty consistent. So we'll say 38.5. And here we have to put degrees because we're talking about an angle. Okay, any questions so far on solving for the angle as opposed to the side? Okay, then let's try number 2. So again, we'll start with circle our angle, label our sides, and figure out which trig function we're going to use.
Can't you use a Pythagorean theorem? I don't know.
If we were finding the third side, yes. But because our variable is the angle, no. So which trig function are we going to use here? Tangent, because we have something on the adjacent and something on the opposite. So we have tangent of angle x is equal to opposite over adjacent. So in order to move the tangent to the other side, we make it tangent with a little -1 on it of 7 over 5. Type it into your calculator. And what do you get? 54.5 degrees. Is everyone getting 54.5? Anybody not getting it? Okay. So how are we doing so far with inverses? Okay. So let's do the next. We have 2 more. So just like before, we're going to start by circling our angle and labeling our opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So opposite, across from 90 is our hypotenuse, and our other side is the adjacent. So which trig function do you think we're going to use? So I heard someone say sine and someone say cos. So this one, we look here, we have opposite and hypotenuse.
TOA.
It's what?
Or the last one, TOA.
But O and A
never
would
mind,
mean
it's
opposite and
sine.
adjacent. This one's sine. Okay, because we have SOH, opposite and hypotenuse, go with sine. So sine of x will equal 15 over 24. To move the sine to the other side and get x by itself, we have to make it inverse, or sine -1 of 15 over 24. Type that into your calculator. 38.7?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Point what? 0.7. 38.7. And don't forget the degrees. Okay, try the last one on your own and see how you do. Okay, what are you guys getting for an answer?
24.2.
Okay, so you should have ended up with 24.2. So when we look at this, we circled our angle. We have opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So it should have been a tangent. When we inverse it, it becomes inverse tangent of 9/20, which gives you 24.2 degrees. Okay, any questions on